Welcome to the Future of Payroll and Workforce Management Insights by HR.com, your go-to resource for insights into payroll and workforce management. From navigating compliance and technology trends to exploring the latest in global payroll solutions, we're here to keep you ahead of the curve. Join us as we dive into the forces reshaping payroll and share practical strategies to optimize your workforce management. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Future of Payroll and Workforce Management, a podcast here at HR.com, and I am your host. And at HR.com, I am also Executive Community Leader of Future of Payroll. And I do a bunch of other things. Sometimes I forget everything that I do, or some of the things that I do at HR.com. It's so much, but enough about me. This is about my guest today for the podcast. We have with us Poornima Farrar. Sorry, I knew that I would mangle your name. Give me a second, I'll get it right. Poornima Farrar. Welcome, Poornima.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, Brent. And I was just as I was just telling you, I've loved your podcast, and really nice to see how aligned we are in terms of all the hard work that HR practitioners put into their day-to-day roles and how we can help them.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and we were talking about that in the green room. We have a green room here at the HR.com podcast, even though we're not, some network television late night show. We still have a green room. But in any event, and yeah, I share your interest in how, the tough job that HR practitioners have, and I don't think I could do it. So you are Chief Product Officer at Rival HR, which used to be SilkRoad Technology. So I just wanted everyone to know this is where Poornima is from. And we have a really interesting topic today around onboarding, redefining it, workflow orchestration, and also honestly integration and how much of a role that plays in things. But before we get into that, as I like to ask all my guests, what really drew you to the world of work? In this case, technology for it. What drew you to this industry? I find that most people in the world of work, HCM, which is sort of the sterile term for it, they have real passion, some sort of a real interest in it. What's yours?
Yeah, yeah. I'm one of those people that loves to work. So I think I'm just in general, I'm interested in, just how people produce high quality work. But over the last 15 to 20, give or take how you define my career, I've worked on both data and analytic products as well as people products. And what's really interesting is just the intersection of the two, because when you're looking at people and how to make them work effectively, give them productivity, give them engagement, I've really come to see just how much of that work actually happens in the back office, creating, culture, creating, an understanding of the organization, of that management of workforce. So I'm fascinated by organizational behavior and orchestration. And that was, I think initially it started off more as just a fascination, but the more I've gotten to learn about, gotten to meet HR practitioners, meet everyone from CHROs down to the specialists on the ground who are even today working through manual steps. The passion and the excitement that they have for what they're doing for their people and employees keeps me excited about the software that we built for them.
Yeah, yeah, and they really do need good software. It's such a need out there, and it really helps with their job and really transforms it. It's a piece of the puzzle to transform their work from administrative tedium to being strategic. Really, is what we've been talking about for the longest time. So let's kind of dive into it. So we're going to talk about how integration, compliance, and scale are now table stakes for modern HR technology.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that Rival has an approach that helps organizations move faster, stay compliant, and deliver connected employee experiences, and all that kind of stuff. And I want to get into that. But here's my first question for you, kind of to set the stage and get us rolling here. How does Rival's evolution from SilkRoad's legacy shape its approach to modern onboarding and organizational readiness? And before you answer, just want to kind of insert here, Silk Road was very well known for red carpet. It was sort of the standard bearer when it came to onboarding, and there's a lot of red carpet DNA
Mhm.
to this day in the product. So I just want to get that, shoehorn that in too. But maybe you could speak to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, when I joined the company, it was called Silk Road.
Mm.
And I was, I'm part of the executive team that helped with the transformation in terms of the company branding from Silk Road to Rival. So we're very aware and respectful of the history that we are fortunate to carry on. For your audience who may not know everything about Silk Road, it started back in the early 2000s where it was really focused on saying, okay, most people are still using spreadsheets and email chains to onboard employees and pre-board them. And it kind of started with this concept of how do we move from paperwork into digital? And pretty revolutionary in terms of just the concept of moving to an automation layer. And as you mentioned, beloved in terms of customer sentiment, the customer focus, people focus, and scaled from there into adding on a variety of other products. But the core of the Silk Road DNA was in terms of, let's focus on security and compliance. Let's focus on meeting people where they are in their work instead of expecting that everybody should work in our way of doing things. So essentially flexibility and adaptability. And also really thinking about how do we, be first to market? How do we innovate and approach things from a fresh mindset? And that's really where the rival DNA has, I think intersected with the Silk Road DNA, which is we stand out because we take kind of that Silk Road's proven onboarding discipline to really build out a AI-driven continuous workforce orchestration. And
Mm-hmm.
what that looks like in 2025 is modern automation, AI-based agentic design, empowering HR practitioners to democratize workflows to managers, to global departments, and essentially have Rival be the driver of productivity and compliance. One example, as we talked to our customers, what we realized is they love red carpet, but they weren't just using it for onboarding. The
Mm.
flexibility of the system basically enabled them to use the product for M&A, for offboarding, for career pathing, for pretty much any employee lifecycle use case that you can think of. And that was one of the reasons why we transitioned not just the company name from Silk Road to Rival, but the product name from onboarding to workflow, because we
Mm.
realized that our core is really making workflow in that same spirit of Silk Road.
Yes, super interesting. Just thinking about the old brand name too is you're rolling out a red carpet for the employee no matter where they are in their
Yeah,
employee journey. Yeah, I
that's
love that idea too. Um, so how HR how so HRIS systems, there's an approach to onboarding in most HRIS systems, and how
right.
is that different from Rival? What's the
Yeah.
difference here?
Yeah, why are we different? Why are we special? And to be honest, we work with pretty much every major HRIS or HCM vendor out there, also payroll vendors and others, right? So, what really sets us apart is we don't see onboarding through just an administrative lens. We're not looking at onboarding as just a way to collect data, assign tasks, and ensure compliance, though we really make sure that each of those steps happens well. We see, whether it's pre-boarding, onboarding, or any employee lifecycle use case as essentially a living adaptive experience that's a 3D orchestration. So you're moving from, let's say, a task that I as a manager have to do to then IT to then, uh, you know, the employee and then back. But an onboarding for a sales organization is going to be different from a product organization. And the managers getting involved into the ground level and saying, okay, here's how I want to change the experience is part of that democratization of an AI driven experience that we see as the future, right? So to kind of show that comparison, most HRIS systems will think of onboarding as a linear, short-term process. Often the workflows are static, and the personalization is relatively minimal. There are also gaps depending on how large the organization is and how things were implemented.
Mhm.
That HR cannot go in and have self-service in those systems and say, I want agility. I know that I set this policy, but I want to either make exceptions, or B, change the policy altogether, or do A/B testing, if you will, roll out different types of policies to different organizations or geos. So we see onboarding as kind of a multi-pronged approach where there should be as much personalization as needed. It should be a connected ecosystem. So, don't just focus on the HRIS use case and say, go here for payroll and then go here for something else. Have a single integrated system of engagement and let Rival handle the orchestration under the iceberg. And most importantly, let the teams and the managers build or adapt workflows themselves.
Mhm.
Not rely so much on like one central flow for an entire global organization when we know that the world is agile, that people want more, ability to do things themselves. And so that ongoing readiness and that ongoing flexibility is a big way in which we're really thinking about this onboarding experience as being very different from how I've seen many HRIS systems handle it so far.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's super duper interesting. And by the way, I love that term orchestration. I love that
Thank
term. I haven't seen, it's like an orchestra, like a
you. Yeah,
conductor. I love that imagery. Um, Now I understand that Rivals integration, it simplifies HR tech stacks and by connecting data and workflows across, help enabling the connection of data and workflows across systems. How does it do that? Like, what's going on? Because I hear this a lot from a lot of folks out there. Hey, we make integrations easy and all that kind of stuff. But how do you actually really do it?
yeah. What sets us apart? I love that you love orchestration. It's kind of ties to what we're describing there. Um, the kind of the orchestra is a great example, right? Often there's so much happening within an organization in terms of a variety of tools and systems that are needed for an employee or for different organizations to know how to scale the experience across the board. Integrations are a big part of that. While over the last several years, we've really seen this concept of platform consolidation. Kind of the flip side of it is that it's often a walled garden. Systems don't
Mhm.
talk well to each other. HR is often doing a lot of manual, hand holding of moving content from different systems.
Mhm.
There is also often a burden on IT to maintain any integrations or stacks between different systems. So, what on the one hand, there is this expectation of let's just put everything in one system and then everything will be fine. Well, the experience suffers, right? If you go with a large vendor that is kind of focused on every single thing, that's their focus is very different from a client, someone like Rival, where workflow and HR, um, you know, journeys and employee journeys is all we do. So our focus from an integration is built around a simple idea that instead of forcing teams to work inside of a complex HR tech stack, we should let the work flow across it, and then Rival takes care of the integrations. So
Oh,
our
okay.
team works on all of the integrations. We take fragmented tech stacks where there may be a separate system for recruiting and onboarding, payroll, learning, IT, provisioning, analytics. Instead of having HR or IT spend hours reconciling that data or chasing approvals, we make sure that, we can be the data fabric so that if you need information to flow from HR into IT when a new employee starts, and is making a particular selection. They come into the Rival portal, make their selection, and then Rival handles all of the information orchestration layer. So we'll make
Mm.
sure that the information goes to your payroll vendor and to your HR vendor, to your benefits vendor, et cetera. And essentially, we pull and push the data, and HR does not have to worry about it. IT is not burdened by it. And the employees and managers then can focus on thinking about the experience that they want for their employees instead of thinking about which system they should live in.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, kind of taking that technical conundrum
That's right.
out of their mental space so they can focus on the employee experience, which
Yeah.
I think is, and a lot of this is really, there's so much complexity in the technology stacks for, the multi-platform technology stacks, multi-application from multi-vendor tech stacks for HCM, right? And so to remove the all of the just the thought process around that for those HR professionals, so that they don't have to focus so much on that and worry about it and have to wonder whether they can do this, that, or the other thing for the employee experience because they have to worry about which system talks to the other, whether it can, and all sorts of things. That is always a benefit for the employee experience. It's
Yeah.
also beneficial for compliance, from what I understand, and I understand that Rival kind of bakes the compliance and audit readiness into the process. So
Yes.
um, how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, that journey has to be real time. It has to be visible. It has to be contextually automated, right? So team trigger should trigger actions based on what steps were already taken. So all of those compliance layers, um, as data is moving across systems, tend to happen on a manual basis. So if you're an HR leader and you're asking your team, hey, where is somebody in their journey? Surely you're going to get an answer for that. But 9 out of 10 times, it requires a lot of work on your teams. They're pulling data from different systems, they're assessing where everybody is. Why not instead have a dashboard that shows
Mm.
you at any given time where is an employee in their life cycle, what forms or what compliance, what components have already been approved or selected, and scale from there. So for us, when we think about baking in that compliance, every workflow in Rival captures the who, what, when, where behind each step. We create a built-in audit trail, and this audit trail goes also includes information on where the data was passed to. So we maintain that compliance not just for our own system, but also that we ensure that people know that the data was also passed to other systems.
Mm-hmm.
And then, documents, approvals, training completions are time-stamped and stored securely. We hear from so many prospective clients who have often had to deal with fines, right? Because they have a ton of specialists that are focusing on making sure that these steps are taking place, but they don't necessarily have the right tools for them to be able to do the kind of flow that they need. So for us, instead of chasing compliance after the fact, we make sure that organizations stay compliance ready on an ongoing basis by giving them the tool that they need.
Yeah, yeah, it's all really, really interesting. You know, there's a global aspect to this, and I want to get to that
Mhm.
because these are really, really sort of complex. The regulatory landscape, the topography, if you will, it's just widely varies, and it can be very challenging to manage compliance across these widely distributed teams. And I imagine that this whole thing that you've just described is very useful in helping to add efficiency to that, and also precision and accuracy to that. Um, Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
At high volume or low volume, a lot of the global challenges often come in terms of understanding policies, understanding the breakdown of those policies, how to support regional teams and give them autonomy, while making sure that at the global level, the policies are set so that everyone knows what they are. And this is often another area where, you know, uh, uh, HRIS stacks don't necessarily, this is not their specialty, right? Like they're thinking about that global view, and then there's localization or components like time zones, etc. But the country specificity when it comes to the policy layer, compliance layer, enabling people to launch workflows quickly and efficiently, and then be flexible about how to drive forms or how to drive journeys is not really something that exists out there. And this is an area of heavy investment for us. So how Rival handles this is essentially a seamless, consistent experience by saying, if you're an HR leader in any region, instead of trying to build out forms in our system, why don't you upload a form or all the forms that your country or region requires, and then we'll convert them into essentially content that you can share out with your organization. So it's a click of a button. It saves people
Wow.
weeks of work in terms of understanding what the steps are. And then again, providing that visibility to HR and managers and no extra admin lift is really a way in which we're delivering value to enterprise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really, I mean, there's a lot of efficiency to be found here. I mean, it's a lot, huge upside. Uh, in the couple of minutes that we have left, I just want to just circle back to the whole rebrand, because I've been in the space for nearly 20 years now, and SilkRoad Technology is a brand I remember from way
Mhm.
back, and you guys have been on a really exciting journey over the past couple of years. And when did the rebrand when did the rebrand happen? And it's just what was some of the thinking behind that?
Yeah, we're going on 2 years at this point.
Okay.
We think of the rebrand, part of the reason for choosing Rival is, well, there's essentially two reasons. We SilkRoad Technology had such a great brand behind it, but there was this whole feedback around how do we continue to show that we're innovating and really, staying at kind of the cutting edge of the market. So Rival was selected as a way to say we're here to rival the status quo. We're not just here to build one more, system that can be implemented and set it and forget it. We're going to be agile and continuously drive innovation and value. And then the second piece was the revival part
Yeah.
of it. And so that was the other reason why the name appealed to us as well.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, I love the name, and it's so cool to see Silk Road Technology, now Rival HR, really doing some cutting edge stuff. And I want to thank you so much, Poornima, for joining me, being my guest on the podcast today. This has been just a really illuminating episode. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Future of Workforce Management and Payroll Insights by HR.com. We hope today's episode brought you valuable insights and fresh perspectives on the future of payroll and workforce management. Be sure to check out more episodes and explore resources at HR.com/podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, keep innovating and making a difference in the world of payroll and workforce management.